Hello YouTube, welcome back to our demo application. In the last two videos, we built this search model and we can now search by a brand, we can select a model, we can select a minimum price and a maximum price. When we click on search, you can see that the URL changed and contains all the filters we had in this form. If I go to the URL and I change the model from 320 to, for example, 116, you will see that now our form will contain 116 as the model selected. And this is kind of good. This starts to resemble a bit of autotrader.com. If we go to Autotrader, this is exactly what we have over here. Now, when we click search, Autotrader will show some search on the left and a list of cars on the right. And in order for us to do that, we need to go to VS Code and we will start to create a new file that we can call cars.tsx. So our URL will be /cars. And let's start to create this component. Export default function, cars list, for example, or cars paginated. It really doesn't matter the name for now. And we will return a grid. And this grid will be of type container, and inside this grid we will have another two grids. One grid for our search and another grid for our paginated list of cars. So over here we can say grid item xx equals to 12. So in really small screens it will be 100% of the screen. When the screen starts to grow slightly, we will say it's probably 5, so slightly less than half of the screen. When we go to something like an iPad Plus, we will have probably 3, and on LG we will have 2. And probably I'm being a bit too aggressive over here, okay? So we will test it in the browser and then we will play around. So let's call it left, which is the search. And for the right, we will just update the values. And so over here is 7, 3 is 9, oops, not 0, 9. And over here, 12 minus 10 is 2. So over here, we have the right of the screen. And we can just go to our browser just to see if this is even in the browser. So let's go localhost /cars and see if our page is at least with left and right. And if I remove the zoom, yes, it's there. So the next step is to go to our index file and start to import this one. But over here we called it home, or actually we never changed this name. We are still using the name that came with the Next.js boilerplate code. So we can come over here and change home to something like search, because in reality that's what it is a search component, right? And so we can come over here and call it search. And so when we do this search, we can say makes equals to an empty array of makes and models equals to an empty array of models. We can import this one once again. And now that we import that one, we can go to the browser to see if it's really okay or not. And actually, I'm not liking this as is, to be honest. So let me just make it smaller. And when it's small, I actually like it. And it gives me an idea. We can probably make it always one single column. Let's go to VS Code and do that. So let's say single column. And if I remember correctly, over here, we did all the time SM equals to 6. Yes, we did. So, okay. So if we did that, this is good. We can say single column will be an optional Boolean. And so if this Boolean is true, what we are going to say is const SM value equals to what did I call it? Let me check again. Single column. So if single column is defined, we can say 12, otherwise we say 6. So if single column is specified, we always have it as a single column, which is full screen the 12. Otherwise, we will have the 6 that we had before. So we can say SM equals to SM value. We can search and hopefully we selected and replaced it everywhere. Yes, so it's here. SM value. Going back to our browser and closing this one, this starts to look nice. We can give some spacing over here to this right. So going back to our code over here, we can say some spacing equals to 3, because that's what we were already using in the search. And now we have some spacing between that and the right word. And this is starting to look nice, okay? Now, what can we also do? We can go over here to our search component and we can start to copy our getServerSideProps, because in reality we are going to need these makes and these models. Plus, sooner or later, we are going to also need the cars paginated list and the total number of rows, or at least the total number of pages we have. So in our case, we have, let's say, 21 items. If we divide it by 4, we will have 6 pages, right? So when I reach the page number 6, I don't want to be able to go forward. I want to have some kind of validation on UI. And the easiest way is to have a total number of pages. So if the total number of pages and my current page is the same, I just don't allow the user to go forward. In order to fix all these imports, we can be a bit tricky and go over here and just copy everything we have. Okay, and now VS Code will do the magic for us. So we keep this search because we are going to need the search. We do this, and when we save, VS Code removes all the unused ones, which is exactly what we needed, right? So now we just need to say, over here, we will receive makes, we will receive models, we will also receive, as I said, the list of cars paginated, and we need something like total pages. Okay, so let's create the interface for this one. Interface for cars list props. We'll have makes, which will have the make over here. We will have models, which will be a model array. We will have cars, which will be a car model array. And we will have the total pages, which is just a simple number. Okay, so let's start to import the makes from there. Okay. And now VS Code is a bit slow, but it's fine. We can also import the model. And the last one will be the car model, which will be from API/car. And by the way, in the future, we need to make those all in the same place, because I have some interfaces defined in API, others defined in the database file. In the future, we will probably make everything into the same place. Okay, so now that we have these, we can also say that the type of these will be cars list props. So this is starting to look good. We can use the makes and put makes over there. We can copy the models and put the models over here. Okay, and so let me go back to our initial page, which was this one. And now this initial page, when I click search, I don't want to be kept in the same page. I want to navigate to the /cars. So we can go over here to the index, and when we are doing the path name / we can go and say path name, it will be /cars. So now we navigate to the page we want. And I think this was the last bit before we have to take care of pagination by itself. So when I click, I come over here and I keep everything from the URL. So this is still working. The minimum price, the maximum price, everything was kept. And this is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so how can we handle pagination? Let's go over here on the right. And before we even go to pagination, let me just start to say the pre and close the pre over there and say json.stringify. And we will say cars, total pages, and null for. And this will help us to understand if we are going correctly with pagination or not, okay? Because the prettify and making the pages with cards, we will do in the next video. So in this one, we will just focus on pagination and what we need to do in order to achieve pagination, okay? So over here, I can even do one small trick for people that are in mobile devices, which is saying style equals to font size. I will say 2.5 rams, it's probably good. And you can say in the comments if this was good enough for you or if next time I should make it bigger. But I think this is a good size and you will let me know in the comments then. If it's not, I can put the next time 3 rams, or I can start with 3 rams already. And if it's too big, I start to make it smaller. Okay, so with that in mind, now we can go to this database folder and start to create a new file that we can say get paginated cars, for example. Okay, and this get paginated cars, what are we going to do over here? We will have export asynchronous function get paginated cars. Okay, paginated cars. And over here, we want to receive the query parameters from Next itself. And if we go over here, we can see that the query from Next is of type parsed URL query. So we can say query, it's of that type, and I can remove this search box from there. I don't need that anymore. We can import this from there. And so over here now we have the query that Next.js is giving to us. So we can start to think about the database query that we are going to do. And the database query, in order for us to start, we need to open the DB as always, right? So we will do open database. And now that our database is open, what do we need in this query? Well, let's do something like cars equals to await, and we will do db.allCars, and we will have a car model. And so I think we have to do some small tricks over here, because I'm now thinking that we will also need the total pages and the cars. But first, let's focus on the cars and paginate the cars, and then we think about the total pages. Okay, let's do it that way. So let's do a select star from cars. And now, if we want to start to do pagination, we need to do something like this, where, and we will say make is null. So if make is not defined, we don't even apply that filter, which seems good. And make equals to, or not and, or make equals to the column make in the database. And this is starting to seem good. So now we can replicate this all over the place and say for the minimum price and for the model first. I was forgetting about the model. Okay, so we will do for the model, and now we can do for the minimum price and the maximum price, right? And so minimum price, not AMD, that's a CPU, minimum price and maximum price. Over here we say minimum price and maximum price. So our minimum price needs to be smaller or equal than the price we have our vehicle selected. And then the maximum price needs to be bigger or equal than the price. And I think over here we have the important bit of our query. Okay, this is the important bit. Then the last bit that is also important is for us to do the real pagination. So imagine that we want to go to page number 2, for example. Okay, SQLite and most database engines like SQL Server, for example, they provide some features for that. In SQLite, we called it limit and offset. So let's say that I have this, for example, limit and offset 10, okay? So what's happening over here is that I will get row number 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, okay? So I'm offsetting 10 and then getting the next 5. Limit is kind of get me the next after the offset. The offset is jump these many rows, okay? So I hope it's understandable that way. Okay, so over here in the limit, I will say that the limit is rows per page, okay? And the offset is something that we will have to calculate. So over here now I think we have the important bits that we will need. And let's just return the cars. So now what we need to do is to make sure that the make, the model, the minimum price, the maximum price, and the rows per page have the format we care about. And if you remember, everything that we grab from the query in Next.js, so I will show you, const db params or SQL parameters, whatever you want to call them, okay? So for the make, we can say query.make. The problem with this query.make is that now we receive a string or an array of strings, and that's not actually what we want. On top of that, we have another problem, which this make is not only undefined or null, but can also be all. And when it's all, we want to move it to be null in order to be in this validation over here. So when we have all, we don't want to go to the right one. Otherwise, we will never get any vehicle because there is no brand called all. Right? So let me just copy these 3 times, one for make, one for model, minimum price and maximum price. So this one will be for model, for minimum price, and over here for the max price, right? So now we can play a bit with copy paste. And sorry to watch me doing this copy paste, but now that we have that copy paste, we are good. And let's focus in these 4 properties first, and then we will focus on the properties for the pagination itself. Okay, so these ones will be slightly easier because we already did a function called get as string, if you remember, right? And the get as string, someone knocked my door, sorry. So if you look into the query.string, okay, we can come over here and do the following. Function get value as, or get value, just get value string, okay, value, and we will say string or string array. And over here, we are receiving a string or a string array. So we need to do const string equals to get as string, which is the function we already created in the previous videos. We will import this function over here. And now what we need to do is the following. This is already a string. We are already assured that this is a string, or it can be undefined or null. Okay, but let's think this is a string. So we can do the following. If it's not defined, which means it's undefined, null, or an empty array, or an empty string, or string dot to lowercase equals to all, then we will say it's null. Otherwise, we will send the string as is. So make and model, we fixed that for make and model, right? Let's do this for make and model. And now we have make and model fixed. We need now to fix minimum price and maximum price. But because we have this function already created, which solves half of our problem with the all, we can just now create a function called getValueNumber, and we'll have the same input, so it will be string or string array. We can do the following. We can do const string equals to getValueString of the value. So now it will for sure be or a string or null over there, right? So we have that assurance. So we can do number equals to parse integer, and we will give the string. And now there are 2 options. Or parseInt was able to parse that string and create a number out of it, or it was not able to, and we got not a number, NaN. So we can do something like is not a number. So if number is not a number, sorry for repeating the same word 2 times. So if it's not a number, we are going to return null. But if it is a number, we are returning that parse number. So we also fixed get minimum price and getting the maximum price. Okay, so now that we have this get value number, we can already fix, or at least think about the offset and the rows per page. So let's come over here and say const current page is equals to get value number of query.page. If it's not defined, we pass 1. Const rows per page equals to query.rows per page. Otherwise, let's say that we are doing 4 rows per page or 4 items per page. In this case, 4 cars per page. Okay, let's think about the offset. And the way that we can do offset is actually easy. We do times rows per page. So imagine that we are in page number 3. Okay, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 times 4 will be 8. So we are starting on 9, 10, 11, and 12. Those are the 4 records we are going to send. So this is starting to look good, right? So over here, we need to pass the SQL parameters we created over here in the DB params, okay? So we can say DB params, and now we will send also the rows per page, which will be rows per page, and we will also send another one, which is the offset. And so just to make sure that we are using exactly the same strings, it's usually a good practice to just copy them out over here, okay? And you can see that we have make over there, we have model over there, we have minimum price over there exactly the same way, and the maximum price exactly the same way. So hopefully we don't have any typos, because if we have, we will receive a SQL light error. And now that we have this, we are also ready to start to think about the total pages, right? And the total pages in reality will be this query without the limit, plus over here we will have a count star instead of a star. So that gave me an idea. Let's remove this from there and let's call it main query, okay? And we will put that query outside and let's call it const main query. And so we will do the following. We will type that main query over there, okay? And so, oops, I did a mistake, my bad, absolutely my bad. Okay, now it's fixed. And so we will have this main query and we can use the main query for this one and also for the total pages. So let's try to do this. Let me go over here, putting this over there so it's a bit easier for us to read. And now we can do const total pages equals to, and we can even do a copy paste of this one. And now we just need to change slightly. So count star as count, and we remove this limit from here because we don't need the limit from there. And actually we don't need any of those. We just need the DB params. And this will get us the total pages. So we just need to do total pages dot count and then divide. Actually, it's not the total pages. This one is the total rows. Okay, this is total rows. This is getting all the rows we have, and then we need to divide it by the number of rows per page in order to have the total pages. Okay, so now that we have that, we can do cars and total pages will be the total rows divided by the rows per page. Actually, we need to do a math.ceil because if we have 10.3, we are only showing 10 pages and in reality it needs to be 11 pages. Okay, so let's do math.ceil. And now with this, I think, I can be wrong, but I think we have everything we will need. Okay, oops, this is like that. And when we have total rows, we just need to do dot count. This will be a get, and over here we will have count as number, right? And now that we have this, and you are looking into this, you probably remember what we did a lesson ago or 2 lessons ago. When we were doing two queries in a row, we started to use promise.all. So we can do the same thing. We can do cars promise and remove this await from there. We can do total rows promise. And so at the bottom, we can do cars total rows, and we will do await promise.all, an array of total rows promise and cars promise. And I'm feeling that I did a bit too much without testing this at all. So the chances of this going wrong is probably quite high. But well, let's give it a try. Let's go back over here. And now we will do get paginated cars. And in the get paginated cars, we will pass context.query, right? And we need to import this one from our file. And okay, it's already imported. So over here, we can call it pagination. And so we need to pass cars, and it will be pagination / cars, not slash, dot cars. And the total pages will be pagination.total pages. Okay, this seems good actually, but I don't know if this will work. The good news is we don't have anything exploding in terms of TypeScript. So let's go over here, refresh this thing, and no such table cars. Okay, because the table is called car. Okay, so let's go back over here, and the table is called cars, not car. So if we do that and we save, go back over here and refresh, hopefully, yes, everything works. So what do we have over here? We have a bunch of filters. So in order for us to start, let's just remove all the filters, and we should have from 1 to 4. So let's see, we have 1, 2, okay, the second car, the third car, and the fourth car, and the total pages is 6. Let me just change the total pages to be first before the list of cars, because that it will be easier for us to read if the total pages is before car, right? So let me refresh this again. And now total pages should be at the top. So it will be much easier for us to read. Okay, this is good. Let me do the following. Calling a BMW car, do a search. And now this one over here is using shallow, okay? I will just remove shallow for now. Or no, I will not remove shallow. I will explain to you what shallow is. If you come over here and check the calls to our database, or in this case if we go, okay, let me go back to, and you will see what happens. If we go back over here and we have that XHR, when I click search, you will see that we are doing a call to, not this one, the previous one. We are doing a call to the server-side rendering. And when we do that call, we are grabbing all the cars, which is good. But because we did getServerSideProps, we are also getting all of the makes to populate this dropdown. And actually, we don't need that, or we don't even want to have that. So over here, I'm already doing a shallow. So you can see that when I click there, basically the only thing that we are doing is to grab these models over here. And even this one, I can remove. I can avoid that one. So I can go to our search component and search for SWR. And in the SWR over here, I can say, if you did a call in the last, let's say the last minute to that same endpoint, don't do it again. After a minute, you can do it again. Okay. So over here now, if I refresh and I click on search, we shouldn't execute that call anymore. Okay. So clicking search, we only do the webpack thing, but as you can see, there is no more calls to the /API /models with brand equals to the open close square brackets, which is an empty array. So at this moment, we even avoided something else. So if I click Audi, I did a call to Audi. If I call BMW, I did a call to BMW. But if I go back to Audi, because it's in less than 60 seconds, which is a minute, I don't do the call again to Audi. I can go back to BMW. I don't do the call to BMW. And if I click again on 4, now I did a call to 4. After 60 seconds of this, now when I go back to Audi, it will do the call again. So this is a slight optimization that can save your backend from a lot of heavy load for no need. And at the moment, I'm even putting 1 minute, but probably for an application like AutoTrader, you can even have 5 or 10 minutes, because if a car is there in the last 10 minutes, probably you don't care that your user is not seeing that car, right? Now, let's just test also one more thing, which is, let me do all makes, do the search. I will refresh now, and I will see all the cars, and let me focus in a specific car. For example, this Audi A2. Okay, so let me go to Audi A2 because I want to test the minimum and the maximum price if they are working. Okay, so refreshing. I should only have one car right now. And yes, I only get one car, and the price is $81.99. So I will change the price manually, or let's even change it over here first. So 15 and 15, we should keep seeing the car. So refreshing, we should keep seeing the car, yes. If I go over here and I say $81.99, I should still see the car, but if I change to 8200, I should stop seeing the car. So yes, at least the minimum price is working. Let's do the same thing for the max price. So let's go $81.99, we should see it, but if we do $81.98, we should stop seeing it. So yeah, all the filters we did, they are working. That's amazing news, right? So now the next step is for us to go to something like Material UI. So Material UI, and on Material UI, they have something they call the Material UI/lab, which is the kind of beta components or the alpha components even. And if we go there, they now have something called pagination. So we can start to do pagination with those ones, and you will see pagination working already. So in the next video, we just need to do the cards and make them pretty and do some more SEO optimizations over there. So let me check for router, because I know they have an integration with React Router, as you can see over here. And even though this will not work out of the box for us, we can do something in order for it to work. So let's go over here. We can close all of the not needed components at this stage, right? And even before our JSON.stringify, we can put that component. And now let's go over here just to import those two. So we got those two imported over there, right? And we can come over here, paste them, and now we have that pagination from material imported and ready for us to go. Now it will start to complain about things. And one of the things it will complain, it will be about the query. So we can just do query.page. Oops, I need also to import query because I don't have the React router over here. Not React router, sorry. The Next router. So I can do query equals to use router. And so I can now do query.page, but this will be of type string and array of strings, which will not work with Material UI pagination component. So what we can do is something rough just for now, for us to play with it. Okay, so we can do the following. Get as string, and we will get as string, okay? Or even better, we can just do a parse, and if it's not there, let's go a bit more aggressive, okay? So we will do a get parse, and if nothing is defined, we will do 1, okay? And so we can do get as string, and in reality you can do this slightly better, but it's just to not spend too much time doing this. We can do this, and now I think we are doing get as string, so we get a string. If we don't get anything, I'm passing 1, and I'm doing this, and this is still complaining about the previous state, which is fine. And now we have this first error, which is it's expecting a link, but the link from Next.js will not work. So let's create our own component, and we can call this one export, what do you want to call it? Material UI link, something. It doesn't matter for now. Then in a real application, we can put a proper name, right? So we will have this Material UI link. And this one, if you remember from our first ever video on Next.js, we usually receive a link, and inside the link we have an anchor tag, right? So let's just import this one from Next.js/link, and over here we are going to receive some parameters, and we don't care about these two because this is React router specific. And over here we can pass our Material UI link. We can pass some properties to our component. One of them can be the query itself, and the other one we will pass this item, because this item inside has a lot of useful properties, and I will show you. Don't worry. Export interface Material UI link props. We can say item, and item will be of that type, and we can import it from Material UI/lab. So we can do import that one from Material UI/lab. Okay, Material UI/lab/ this one. I don't know if that's the right path, but let's give it a try. Worst case scenario, VS Code will let us know. So we will receive the item, we will receive the query, which will be parsed URL query, like we saw before already. And so what we need to do over here, we need to receive that item, we need to receive a query, and then whatever props we are receiving from there, we can just pass to our anchor tag. Let me show you. So any props we receive, we can just say, okay, whatever happened, pass it to our anchor tag. We really don't care. Over here, we need to do href equals to, oops, I need one more square brackets. I need to do the following. Path name, it will be /cars. Okay, and now the query will be whatever is in query already, plus the page, and the page will be item.page. And this item.page is the new page that we care about, okay? And so this is not importing from the right place, so we can even do something better. I told you that I didn't know where this thing was coming from, but I think if we do this, it's probably coming from the right place. Let's see if after saving, if it comes from the right place. Hopefully it's coming. Yep, it's coming from the right place. So we have that thing over there, and I think we don't have any more errors. So we can go to our browser finally and do the following: refresh. And now when we refresh, we should see, yep, we have some pagination and we are still passing that one, but we can go to multiple pages and we are changing that. So let's delete all the filters we have. So we want to see all the cars, all right? And so now we have the ID 1. When I go to page 2, I should have ID 5, and I have ID 5, ID 9, ID 13, ID 17, and now this is our last page. But because I'm still passing 10, okay? I'm still passing 10 from the default one, okay? We are still passing 10. Well, Material UI has no way to know when it stops. So we can just pass total pages over here. And if this works, we have everything we need for this video. So let's go over here, refresh. It will go to page 7, which we don't even have. So there is no highlighted over here. Let me just zoom this. I sometimes forget that some people are watching this on mobile. I'm sorry. So if we see over here, nothing is highlighted. If we go over here and we say, for example, 6, now we will go to page number 6. I have the 21st vehicle over here. When I click 5, I go to 17. If I go to page number 1, we are in the first page with the first 4 vehicles. So I really hope this pagination part was useful. In the next week, we are going to change these URLs from there to have a shallow, because as I said to you before, and let me show it before we finalize this video, if you go over here to network, every time that I click over here, I'm receiving everything, which means that I'm also receiving the makes once again. And at the moment we only have 10 makes, so probably it's not a big deal, but imagine that in your application you have 100 or 200, and also this query can be slow. We don't know. So it's always good to avoid that, because if we have 1 million users, we are having 1 million useless calls. So in the next video, the only thing I'm going to do, and I will not commit this specific thing I'm going to do because otherwise you can't test it, okay, is to come over here to the link and I will shallow this, okay? And doing this shallow, you will see that when I go back to the page and I refresh, okay, you will not have anything over here. So when I go over there, okay, we will click on number 4, for example, and I didn't execute any call, right? I can do now page number 2, and the only thing that is happening is Webpack itself. We are not doing a real call. Also, on the next video, we are seeing that we have some errors over here, and these errors mean that Material UI is expecting us to have a forward ref, and we don't have a forward ref for our anchor tag. So the first thing I will do in the next video is to do that forward ref to the anchor tag, and immediately after I do that, I will start to make this look a bit nicer. At the end of the video, if we don't exceed a really big period, if we have still time, I will start to play with meta tags in order for us to put specific titles per page, because at the moment, if you see, every page we go, we only have my page, and this in terms of SEO is not the best approach ever. So when we go to a specific page, for example, /car/something/21, for example, we should have on the top of the page Volkswagen Tiguan at least, okay? So we will do those optimizations. They are small and easy to do with Next. So I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!